Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Good morning.
Hola.
Hola indeed. And a happy new year to you.
And to you too. Have you had a nice 2 weeks?
It's been quite pleasant, very productive.
Okay, tell me about them.
I went to my dad's yesterday for nibbles, and it was very funny because he issued an invitation. He said from 12 o'clock, which knocked out all of the younger generation in one fell swoop because they were obviously all still recovering from New Year's Eve at that point. So all the oldies turned up, and very nice nibbles were to be had, and they'd been away to Bruges for a week.
Yeah.
So they had a lovely time. And we all just caught up on our news. We caught up on, what the youngsters are doing with their new properties and things like that. And that was very nice. But I largely spent 2 weeks working, being very productive, doing things that needed long periods of time and no interruptions, watching TV and visiting family. And I'll tell you about the TV bits in Who or What's Impressed. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty okay. And it was really interesting. The first Christmas New Year I've ever had without one hangover at all.
Oh, excellent.
So just, a couple of glasses of wines were consumed, a couple of glasses of cava on occasion, but it never got to the point where it caused even a mini headache. So what about you then? What have you been
Oh my God. Pin back your logos. I've got loads to tell you in this section. And I've kept my other ones a bit shorter. I think it's true to say that when we last spoke, which was 2 weeks ago today on the 19th of December, I was staring down the barrel of homelessness on the 29th of December, and you said, I couldn't live with that level of insecurity. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And I was also anticipating a lonely one-saucepan Christmas day on my own in Lewisham. Yeah, well, neither of those things happened.
The epitome of sadness.
Yes, tragic, absolutely tragic. One saucepan. Neither of those things happened because on the weekend after I spoke to you on the Thursday, and then on the Saturday and Sunday, I got an email from Jane and David, who are two of my top 5 all-time people, and they live on the South Bank, which is 5 miles from Lewisham and my one saucepan. And they said, we're just having a roast chicken and we're in no present zone. Would you like to come over and join us? And I said, would I? Yes, please. Oh. And of course, 5 miles was near enough for me to get to and from and give Phoenix his morning and afternoon medicine. So that was good.
Yeah.
And my nephew organised a Skype hookup with the family. So I did that from David and Jane. And my family played along deliciously with the quiz that I'd created for them called Christmas Memories. And I think they were pleased to see on the Skype that I wasn't alone. And of course, I hadn't told them in advance. So I said, look, I've got 3 surprises for you. One was my quiz, which I didn't tell them about at that point. And the other 2 were Jane and David, who they love as much as I do. So they came and it came in the picture on Skype. It's like, she's not alone with her one saucepan in Lewisham. So that was quite fun. My concern actually was not being alone. It was about the turkey and the saucepan, really.
Yeah.
But I never had to solve that problem. That was good.
Yeah.
And then on the 29th, which was, what day is it today? Thursday. The 29th was Sunday. I moved from Lewisham to Clapham. I think I told you I'd been for an interview at a house for 2 chaps who had 2 cats. I think I said that to you. Yeah. And I'm living the life of Riley in a beautiful house with all mod cons and underfloor heating, and they're 2 lovely cats. And the dads are away skiing. They're very attentive. They've texted me many times until I told them to stop doing it. We're all right. They should focus on their holiday. Yeah. They are exactly the opposite of the lady in Lewisham, who fortunately this morning has given me a 5-star review, but they are laid back to her fastidious. They're so laid back that when I came over for my interview, which was the day after I last spoke to you, you'd think, wouldn't you, that if you'd driven an hour across London, it's only 8 miles or something, but it took a while. It was the morning after both of their respective office parties. Only one of them was here, and they didn't have a set of keys to give me, so they had to drive over to me later in the week between their Christmas break and their New Year break to deliver a set of keys to me at Lewisham. That's how laid back they are.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, exactly the opposite of her. Totally relaxed around here. It's lovely to be back in a place where there's a concierge who looks after my every need. I could definitely live in this house, and they've bought this. They rent this house, and they're moving out. And it's so nice that one of the chaps, his parents, are taking over the tenancy. They don't want to let this nice house go from their family.
Is it a little complex then? You said there was.
It is in a complex. Yeah, it's in a complex. There are a number of houses. Mine's at ground floor and first floor level, and then there's a small discrete tower block with, I don't know, 20 flats in it or something like that. So it's about 6 houses and 20 flats and a concierge.
Well, that's how things should be done, really. That's quite nice, isn't it?
It's perfect. It's quite hard to find as well, which is not a bad thing. So it's totally relaxed, lovely concierge. I could live here. There's one blight, as there was in Hampton, and I've just had to shut the back door, which the cats like to go in and out of, because of the airplane noise. So from 4 o'clock in the morning, the biggest aeroplanes in the world are landing from all the places, all the far away places. That woman in Lewisham, her flight to Perth in Australia was a non-stop 18 hours.
I know, that's just started, that non-stop Perth
flight. It's absolutely staggering that you could be on an aeroplane for 18 hours without stopping, isn't it?
It's only 4 hours longer than the Sydney-Dubai flight, and actually, once you've been on for 14 hours, you might as well stay on for 8.
Yeah, well, 14 is too long for me, really.
I know. You don't have that horrendous thing of stopping in Dubai for a couple of hours, worrying about falling asleep.
Yeah, and I'm never going to fly to Australia unless I'm asleep, as you know. But those big ones that do those long, they're the ones that land at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they start going overhead in Clapham from about 4:30, and they're quite low here, so it's quite a big noise. I don't want to complain because everything else is perfect, but I live with that all my life. You can lie in bed in the summer in Clapham Junction and look out your bedroom window and see them going over at 30-second intervals. It's not every day because they rotate the thing, but it comes as a shock on returning to London.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, the noise levels.
Yeah, the move was a bit chaotic, but I might have made a friend for life. I'd booked from Airtasker a cleaning lady and a chap to help me load the car, because the logistics of that flat were that the car was parked miles away and I had to drag all my stuff. So a very nice man called Tarek and a very nice girl called Lynn, and I booked her for 11 and I booked him for 2, which would have given her an hour or 2 and then me a break in between and then him. But she eventually arrived at 1:30 and he came early, so they clashed horribly in the middle. But it didn't matter because I'm going with the laid back vibe. It wasn't the Judith is in control of every single possibility aspect.
Interesting though that you've had 2 cleaners from Airtasker and they've both been shockingly late.
Oh no, this one wasn't shockingly late. I booked her for 11. She asked if she could come at 12. She then ran about an hour late, and because Mrs. Fastidious cleaned the bathroom floor on her hands and knees, the cleaning lady wouldn't do that, and I didn't blame her. So she had to go to Argos and buy a mop and bucket. It wasn't entirely her fault. About an hour of it was her fault. But, but let me tell you what I liked about her. She's from the Lebanon. She's in London managing to thrive in her second language. She's doing a PhD dissertation in a higher degree, something to do with business. Yeah. We got on like a house on fire, and frankly, I admired her for the feistiness of, no, I won't clean the bathroom floor on my hands and knees. I'll bring you a mop and bucket and you can pay for it, which is exactly what happened. And we've become Facebook friends, and I've given her a little business tip, and it's great. Oh. So in my new gaff, my family are coming over for lunch on Sunday in lieu of Christmas, and I've ordered all the food from Marks and Spencer's, and I'm collecting it at 12 noon from the Clapham South branch, which is hopping distance from my niece's flat. So she's coming to help me load the car, unload the car, and get it all ready for them. They gave me an Amazon voucher for my Christmas day, which I've used for lots of healthy things, and a lovely pink notebook. And being back in Clapham means I can catch up with 3 separate friends. I'm seeing one tonight, one tomorrow morning, one on Saturday morning. I'm getting a decent haircut this afternoon to repair the damage done by the last one. Do you remember the last one was the only bad one that I've had on the road?
It was what you expected, wasn't it?
Yes. And I arrived here on Sunday and had an order in for Ocado on Monday morning. And what I thought I would do was get them to deliver all juices. I thought I'd have a week on juice. Well, suffice to say, when the email came through in the middle of the night, it said all the juices are out of stock. So they delivered me precisely 0 nutrition for a week on Monday.
God.
But Plenish, the juice company, is in London. So I got onto them and placed an order, and they were going to deliver it the same day, I think. And then the woman rang me up and said, oh, and I made an error on my order with the postcode, because of course I move my postcode every 5 minutes. She fixed the postcode on the order. She contacted me and she said, look, the juices we've got in stock today on the 30th of December are rather short use by date. So I'm going to send you a batch tonight and then another batch on free on Friday.
Oh, marvellous.
So talk about great customer service.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, so I'm going to leave them a cracking, once the second batch arrives tomorrow, I'm going to leave them a cracking review on their Facebook page. And it all arrived in these gorgeous insulated bags with ice packs, which I'll be keeping, as I've written here, worth keeping for picnics. Although I think, when was the last time I went on a picnic? And on the last session we spoke, I said to you that I'd had this weird thing going on where I'd had 10 new friend requests on Facebook. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
It's up to more than 30 now.
That's very odd.
I did see one other woman on Facebook asking the same question. Why have I had so many new friend requests in the last couple of days? Again, I'm observing. I'm not complaining. I'm happy about it because, you know, Facebook is this is how I use Facebook. It's my list.
Yeah, you put out some cracking memes over Christmas as well.
Well, and you asked me how I found them, and I answered it. And you know, what you love loves you back. I love Facebook, and not just creating my own content, but curating the content of others that I think people will like. So I'm subscribed to a lot of pages where that stuff just comes up in my timeline, and it's instinctive in me now to go, yeah, my tribe will like that on my page or on my profile.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So for anyone listening who's thinking that, you know, curating other people's content for your tribe doesn't have any value, I've got a lot of amusement and entertainment out of some of Judith's memes, and I've shared a couple of them with full credits, of course. But I'm also, you know, watching what other people are doing in terms of the whole New Year's resolution thing, and I've listened to a couple of things and read a couple of things and got a lot of value out of that as well. So I think you do get a lot of value out of people that you like sharing stuff.
And the other thing for a long time, when I say to people, how do we know one another? They say, I like what you put out on Facebook. But the other thing I saw Veronica Pullen saying yesterday, which I know, and I remind all my clients all of the time, which is the majority of the people following you on Facebook are not even engaging with you. They're enjoying they're just silent lurkers.
Yeah. Mustn't forget the silent lurker.
No, never forget the silent lurker at your peril.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my fortnight. Quite nice. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, I have to tell you. and certainly no hardship ending up the year and starting the new one in complete luxury.
I really would like to make one point, though. Judith, you know, when you tell these stories about being on your own and stuff like that, I would like to say that there's probably about 40 people that would willingly invite Judith anywhere. She has got a lot of people who would love to spend time in her company, but it's for reasons of convenience. That's the main one, isn't it?
No.
And the fact that you're an introvert, you don't like it.
I'm a 50-50 introvert. It isn't. It's. I mean, you know, I want the people who come over to be people I invite to come over, and one of them on Saturday morning is the lady who bought my travel agency 22 years ago.
Oh, lovely!
I know.
That'd be good.
And there's one more point on this. You know, on Christmas Day, it wasn't that I chose to be on my own; it's that I couldn't get to Devizes and back and meet my commitment to my house sit.
Well, that's right. The cat needed its medicine.
Yeah, and my brother sent me a very, very nice email saying how sad he was that we'd seen so little of each other in 2019. And of course, that's down to the house sitting because I'm never near them.
Yeah, especially if you end up expanding your remit to up north, as I see.
Well, I'm near them. I'm near them. I was near them twice in 2019, and I invited them both times, and they couldn't come to the first one because they were on holiday in France, and they're coming to this one. But this one's so the first one was near where my brother and his wife live, and this one is where all three children live. So it couldn't be handier for them. Yeah. Really.
I recommended you to my dad and Eileen yesterday because they've got one super large cat called Hardy, who's very affectionate, and a bungalow in Worthing, which I thought would be commutable, doable for you when they go away occasionally. And the chair not always available, so
no, it would.
She's dog sick.
I do have 3 requirements. I will just list them here: business quality Wi-Fi.
Well, yes.
Parking right outside the front door.
Yes.
And a walk-in shower. I can't hop over the side of the bath. My knees won't do it anymore.
Yeah, and it's lovely and cosy. And it's got a beautiful garden with lovely places to sit,
Yes.
Very good. You'd like it a lot, I think.
Good. Now, tell me what's fueled your fire.
2 things, really. One is that I've been culling and tidying. I've spent the week. I got the rights back from my publisher, who is a real sweetheart, actually. You know, the Money Gym book.
Joe or Debs?
It's Joe
Yeah.
and Lucy. I can never pronounce her surname. McCarriger.
I don't know her.
Well, she's big in the book world. She
Okay.
runs
Because when you went into that contract, it was Joe and Debs, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Joe and Debs. They went their separate ways a long time ago.
Yes.
And it was and the thing is, when I learned how to do these Amazon book ads, I wanted to promote my book.
Yeah.
And it turned out that I couldn't do that because it wasn't in my Kindle account. It was in their Kindle account.
Yes.
So I went to them and I said, look, I want to do this. I want to rewrite it. And they said, well, we can't really do that because that costs a lot of money to redo the formatting. And I want to promote it. So they said, why don't we just give you the rights back? And so I said, they said, you're probably out of contract now anyway. So they went and had a look, and it turned out I'd only had a contract for 5 years. And back in those 5 years that we hadn't even had audio rights covered because audio hadn't been invented then. Can you imagine such a thing? So anyway, they very, very graciously gave me the rights back. And I had a PDF version of it. And the most difficult thing to do was to work out how to turn this PDF version of a paperback version into a Kindle-ready version. And I mucked about a bit, my VA mucked about a bit, and then in the end I decided it was easier just to copy and paste each section into a text document that stripped the formatting out, and then copy and paste that section into a Kindle-ready template. So it was a bit of a laborious job, but I did it while watching TV, and it wasn't so bad because my VA wasn't around over Christmas and New Year. Within 2 days, I had a totally editable version of my original book. So I whizzed through and updated the most obvious things, and then I put it up on Kindle. And I'm now going through the much more laborious process of making it into a paperback. Oh, my God, the formatting on that.
Darling, have you got Scrivener?
I haven't, no.
Oh, shame, because it exports to any format you like at the touch of a button.
Well, I have got templates that Amazon provide for you that you can drop your manuscript into, and it does it. But what it does is it screws up the menu and some of the other things.
I know.
But you say Scrivener would fix that, would it?
Yes, or I have a nice man that did it for me and he wasn't expensive.
Oh, I'd like his contact.
Yes, I'll find them. Yeah,
because I've tried about 3 times now to make it into a paperback, and they keep rejecting it.
Yes, yeah. I'll give you his details after this.
Yeah, lovely. I'm good on the book cover. I'm just struggling with the formatting of the paperback. So that was great. So I'm just about to start the marketing on that, and then I thought, okay, so I've got now 21 interviews of people that I did in the Business Success Factory days, where I asked them for their biggest money tip. And so I've put that together into a book that's come out rather nice, just around 100 pages. And so I've got that onto Amazon yesterday, literally before I went to my dad's.
And what's that one called?
That's called The Money Gym, my number one biggest money tip. And it's, me interviewing people. I've edited it so that it's hardly any me in it. It's more them talking about their number one biggest money tip. So it's 21 people, from Daniel Priestley through to James Ramko, Entrepreneur on Fire chap John Lee Dumas, Get Rich Lucky Bitch Denise Duffield Thomas.
And did you say it was on Kindle?
Yes, it's on Kindle now already. So it's The Money Gym, my one biggest money tip.
And the Money Gym book is also on Kindle.
Yes, it is, and you can tell which one it is because it's got updated for 2020 on the front.
Okay,
there's about 4 editions of it now.
Yeah.
So the next thing
is it worth taking the old editions down so as not to confuse?
Well, I'm going to. Now I've got my version up. Joe said let him know and he'll take their version.
Lovely. Yeah.
But that was really good. So that's fueled my fire a lot because I tell you what, it made me. I've taken down some of my books that need more editing because some of the books were whacked up, in my usual bish bosh bash fashion, and they could stand a bit more editing. So I've taken those down temporarily. So I've only got 2 or 3 up now that I'm really quite pleased with. It's made me think a lot about how I want to do more books and have enough time to do them properly rather than just bunging them up and letting them get on with it. And now I know how to do ads, I'm going to be starting that. So, so it's fueled by fire on I really want to streamline what I do. I want to, because obviously, I've had 2 experiences recently that have made me sort of stop and think about whether I want to carry on doing that in that way. And I just thought books might be the thing, I might just do more books and writing because, I've been writing my screenplay over the business. And I've done my screenplay, so that's nearly ready to go in. Yeah, so it's all been about books and writing and streamlining.
Okay.
And what about yourself?
I'm just writing, and screenwriting. 2 quotes from Lorna Bevan, who's my wacky hair in the moon astrology woman.
Ah, yes.
She put out something on Facebook, I think, about the new year, and then I got the thing that I subscribe to monthly for £3.70. I think I found one in one and one in the other. It's quite appropriate that I'm reading you 2 quotes from an astrologer, because Focus of the Week is going to be Sally, the astrologer. Yeah. Anyway, here they are. Number 1. When we walk to the edge of all the light we have and take a step into the darkness of the unknown, we must believe that one of 2 things will happen. There will be something solid for us to stand on, or we will be taught to fly. Now, that's not Lorna's quote, that's by somebody called Patrick Overton. And the second one is, this place without a foothold is the province of grace. It is the questing field most responsive to magic. Send out your holy signal and listen for the echo back. Again, that's not by Lorna, it's by somebody called Toko Parr Turner. I'm on the edge of all the light I have without a foothold, and that's precisely how it feels to be me right now, and has done for many months. It's exciting in the daylight and terrifying at night.
Oh, yeah. It's, that old thing about, who was it? It was
Come to the edge and they'll fly. Yes, it's reminiscent of that, I think. Yeah.
And it's also, there was when I first ever got into personal development, when I was just reading 7 Habits and things, there was Jack Black? It's a Scottish personal development bloke who you never hear about nowadays. And he had the most amazing audio cassettes set. And I remember Sarah and I were painting St Michael's Road. Remember that nursing home that we turned into a house?
Oh, that was before my time.
Yeah, before your time. We're going back in the midst of time now. We used to listen to Jack Black Mind something, it was called. Anyway, really good if you can get your hands on it. And he's got anything with a Scottish accent makes me laugh. And we were painting this 7-bedroom house from top to bottom while listening to him. And he used to talk about that, how all of the fun was had outside the playground, the field beyond the playground that feels dangerous and scary. And the woods at the edge of the field beyond the playground is where all the real magic happens. Exactly the same kind of thing.
Yeah, and one of my friends / colleagues, when I say to her I'm on the edge, she says, yeah, but the view's so much better.
Scary, isn't it? Scary.
Well, funny enough, you adapt. As I said to you last time, I said I'm going to be homeless in 10 days, and you say, well, that's too scary for me. I've been thinking about it. You adapt, and in March it'll be 3 years, and I've never had a homeless night yet.
Well, that's marvellous, isn't it?
I've had to pay for 5, 6, 7, about 10 nights myself in that time. Maybe another week. Say maybe 3 weeks. Somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks in that time, I've had to pay for my own accommodation, but that's all.
It's amazing, isn't it? One day, and I know you're quite private about all of this now, but one day we'll have to explain to our listeners how that came to be.
Well, they can remember, because we did blow by blow by blow by blow by blow about the flat and the freeholder and all of that. They can remember, I think. But anyway, it's mainly to do with being a waspy woman.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, the government stealing my pension. And the woman, the cleaner who's going to be my friend for life, why are you house sitting? Oh, because the government stole my pension. Well, shouldn't they provide you with a home? Yeah, but I've already got 4 other flats I own, you see. So, I'm not exactly as destitute as it sounds.
No, well, I think that's my point. I think the fact that you've got other properties but you can't live in them is
well, you can live in them, but you wouldn't want to live in the 3 seaside flats. You turned one of them down yourself once when I offered to you when you were in extremis, and the one in London makes too much money for me to live in it. Yeah. It's part of my income.
Yeah, and also, they're not suitable for your knees, are they? Some of them.
They're just not. I mean, they've been bought to be investments, not bought to live in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's quite a few. I mean, I follow quite a few other people who are doing this now, and then there's that. Oh my God! I've got to tell you about Fueling My Fire. Did you notice that Lisa has featured us on their narrowboat?
I saw your quote, and then I watched their movie. Yes,
it was really exciting when she said, "I'm just about to watch some podcasts," and flashed up her screen, and it was us.
I think she'd also said it on our Facebook page.
Oh, well, it was very brilliant.
I think she said she'd got a few of them stacked up.
Made me quite happy that day.
I get quite a lot of messages from people who are saying, I've got 3 or 4 of yours, I'm doing the ironing today, or I'm going on a long drive today, or I think Rihanna even saves them for when she goes on a drive.
Well, marvellous. We love you for that, listeners. We love you.
So my fire was fueled by 2 inspirational quotes that spoke to my personal circumstances. And I think when you read or see in a movie or television or something that describes exactly how it feels to be you, it's very reassuring, isn't it? That we discussed this the other day about not being as mad as you think when you went into therapy. You know, when you realize that other people have similar things going on in their lives, I think you kind of sigh a bit. Not that I want to be normal, but you sigh and you go, oh, it's not just me then.
Yeah, absolutely, because otherwise it can feel a little bit lonely and terrifying.
Well, weird. I mean, I'm used to explaining my weirdness to people, but not this particular. Brilliantly, when I came over to meet the hungover dad of these two cats on the 20th, and he's in finance, and I said to him, he said, "How long have you been doing this?" And I said, "I'm a waspy woman, if you know what that is." He said, "Yes, I do." And when a man says, "Yes, I do," a younger man too, and it means I don't have to explain it.
Okay, so are you going to tell us about Focus of the Week then?
Yes, we'd on the 12th of December, which was a brilliant astrological day, Nicola and I talked to listener astrologer Sally Kirkman, and I'd invited her earlier in the summer to talk to us on the topic of astrology for Brian Cox fans, because I know Nicola is a leaner towards science and away from Spooksville. So we asked her about 2020, and we thought it would be appropriate to put her interview out in the first show of the new year. And she says, what do you want to get rid of? What's coming to an ending? Let things go in January to free up space for something new coming in. And she also told us that 2020 at last is the new Aquarian age is coming in, after the song encouraged us to expect it in the 60s. Do you remember?
Yes. Well, should we sing it for them?
No, but Sally explains what the Age of Aquarius means for us.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, let's have a listen.
Hello, Sally and Nicola.
Hello.
So this afternoon, on a very auspicious day, the 12th day of the 12th month of 2019, which is also the general election and a very exciting full moon, our guest is astrologer Sally Kirkman, who's going to talk to us in a minute about astrology for Brian Cox fans, both of which Nicola and I are. Sally, before you get into that, just tell us a little bit about who you are and where we can find you online.
Hello, everybody. Well, I'm Sally Kirkman, and my website is my name. It's www.sallykirkman.com. And I have been an astrologer for the past 30 years. It was kind of a vocation that found me, really. And I've worked in many different areas of astrology because I started out writing horoscopes, and not all astrologers do that. So I had a big part of my career writing for the TV Times, Express newspapers, quite a few publications in the UK. And since 2011, I've had a website where I write about astrology, where you can get astrology readings with me, find out about more about astrology and how to work with it as well. So that's the basic me.
Yeah. Cool. So I'll start you off with a question, and then we'll move into the Brian Cox phase. I learnt an expression from you, which is "as above, so below."
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about what that means.
Well, I mean, the basic premise of astrology is that what's happening with the movement of the planets, which is going on all around us constantly, what's happening with those planets and what they mean is a reflection of what's happening in the world. And also, you can take that one stage further and say what's happening with you on an individual level. So what's really important with this is that you have to put astrology in context of when it was first in use, which was thousands of years ago. So we're talking ancient people, and this was actually pre-science, which is quite interesting from the light of the Brian Cox fans. So it was a different kind of truth, a different kind of knowingness. If you were an astrologer back then, you were also an astronomer. And I have to say, many people get the two muddled. In this day and age, as an astronomer, you are mapping the heavens. You are looking at exactly where the planets are moving. And if you are an astrologer, then you're basically looking for the meaning in the movement of the planets as well. So back in ye olde times, if you were an astronomer mapping the heavens, you would also say, okay, what does that mean? And this was because ancient people were much more in tune with the cycles of nature. You know, their lives are ruled very much by the sun and the moon. And the seasons, and astrology is very closely linked to the seasons. So they were very aware that what was happening in the planets would be having an influence on Earth and in their lives as well.
And that held for quite a long time until fairly recently, didn't it?
Well, it did. I think we're talking, Enlightenment, the arrival of science, when there was a big split. And suddenly people weren't interested in what does it mean, this question. They, became in a way quite individual. Everybody wanted scientific proof of things. Astrology doesn't work in that way. It's based on scientific principles, but it's also incredibly intuitive. And it's kind of, it's a form of divination. It is a form of divination.
Yeah.
That, for me, is what it's more closely aligned with.
And what drew you to it in the first place?
Absolutely fascinated by it, I have to say. I mean, I did get into it through writing horoscopes, and this is how I found, they were called the Company of Astrologers. They're still around, actually, but not in the same way. They were the astrology school I trained with. And it was I just found it incredibly fascinating that you could have, your birth chart, which is a map of the heavens when you were born, gave you signs throughout your life. It told you about who you were. You could use it for timing. And it was I was totally gripped by it. Not just that, but then it brought in themes of history. It brought in psychology. It brought in spirituality. It's an incredibly complex art. It's very dense. It's very rich. It's also, it's based on scientific principles. So you have to be quite good at maths. And also when I was learning, we didn't do this drawing up charts on computers. We did it all by hand. You had to be left brain and right brain. You had to use the two, actually.
Yeah. And in terms of Brian Cox, this is all coming a bit full circle, isn't it now, as these two things are not quite so incompatible as they've been for the last 150 years?
I think not. I think a lot. I'm not a scientist by any means, but I think a lot of kind of what we would probably call new science is showing that, divinatory arts like astrology have much more in common with quantum physics, some of the new discoveries in science. That there is something else going on beyond this very predictable scientific truth. There's something else that takes place. I don't know enough about science to give you lots of examples, but I think, scientists who know about quantum physics will know that, I think there's that butterfly one, isn't there? When a butterfly flaps its wings,
yes,
and there's a ripple effect.
Yes.
And it's that kind of, that is what's bringing the two closer, actually, not further apart.
One of my questions to you in preparation for today is, do you think horoscopes give astrology a bad rep?
Well, you're asking the wrong astrologer.
Because
some astrologers would say yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I started out writing horoscopes. That was my way in. And like a lot of astrologers, actually, I really like horoscopes. They're important for a couple of reasons. One they are the way into astrology. It's a very complex art. So horoscopes are there for people, who are beginners, who know nothing about it, to find more out about what the planets say.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, horoscopes are based on your sun sign. And as we know, the sun is at the center of the universe. So it's a very important star or planetary body in astrology. And even if you know just about sun signs, it can be really useful, for understanding more about yourself, for working in relationships with other people. I use it. It makes so much sense about why people act as they do. So I love horoscopes. And I think they're like, when you get your horoscopes, you're working with the timing of astrology. They tell you more about the moon, the phases of the moon throughout the month, knowing when to take the initiative, when to release and let go, when to slow down. So you're getting in the flow of these planetary cycles. And also I think they're just little touchstones. They're a chance to kind of stop and get off the busy hamster wheel of life and say, okay, touch back in with yourself. What's happening? And they're a way of kind of reconnecting you to self. That's how I see them.
But you do a very good job of them. You do in-depth ones. You do. I'm thinking of those sort of horrid little 3-liners in a NAF newspaper, which was the ones I grew up on. They led my brother to say to me once, how can 1/12 of the population be having the same expectation today?
Yes, no, I understand that. And the thing is, they are in some level a form of identification. Like we have, the wealth dynamic profile.
Yes.
What's he called? Not Ryan. Ryan Giggs is the footballer. Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs, yes.
Him.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that we like to pigeonhole ourselves or to feel that we know ourselves through, say, being a Taurian. Do you meet people who, you and I are both typical of our star signs. Nicola, what's your star sign?
Libra.
And Sally, what's a Libran?
Well, Libra is one of the air signs. So, I mean, this is about, air signs need things to be logical, rational, make sense on some level.
Okay.
I'm quite on the cusp of Virgo, and I often feel more like a Virgo, I think.
And what are they like?
Virgos are attentive to detail. It's much more about... it's much more about work, routine, sort of daily things. Virgos are much more in touch with nature and more sensual. Earth sign like Taurus, actually.
I don't really see you as that, Nicola. I see you as the other one.
I don't see myself as a Libra either, apart from...
No. Well, you see, that's a very interesting question, isn't it? I was going to ask Sally that. It's a bit like the wealth dynamics. Very, very few people I know don't actually recognise themselves in their wealth dynamics profile, but you're saying you don't really recognise yourself in your star sign.
Apart from, I've got a very strong sense of justice and fairness.
Okay.
Which Librans are, it's the scales, isn't it? That's my sign.
Yeah.
And also relationships and partnership, because that's another, you kind of find yourself through the other, or you end up in double acts. I mean, you've got a double act with Judith here. I mean, you're in one with...
Yeah, we have a double act, that's true.
Are you a Taurian, Judith?
I am.
Well, I have lots of interactions with Taurians.
Taurus and Libra are the two star signs ruled by Venus. So you have the same planet. So you quite often find that your compatibility is with other star signs that share something, or you have something in common. Also the thing to remember is that you're not going to tick off a list of every characteristic of that star sign. But there will be something you do that, is very typical of it. And it's, again, with astrology, I like to think it's how you use it. How can you have that help you? Help you know yourself and help you work alongside other people who are, different to you. My daughter's a Libra. I'm a Scorpio. She drives me mad because she's kind of, she goes with the flow and is quite laid back. Can be a little bit lazy at times, which are some Libra.
I identify with all of those.
Right, okay. It drives me nuts, but I've learned, okay, she's a Libra, so I always need to give her a bit more time. And, I give it, she was little, I give it like warnings, 10-minute warning to leaving now. So, you're more understanding, I think, of the other person with it. I think that's one of the real strengths of the sun signs, actually.
I think one of the things I envy your knowledge about is, for instance, no accident, I guess, that we're speaking today on the 12th of the 12th, because you're a person that I see, living her life by her own advice to us. So you know the right dates to move house and the right dates to leave a relationship and the right dates to sign a proposal. You know all of that, don't you? When I see you in my diary, I think, she must think it's a good day for something today.
Well, it is. I do have it's hidden knowledge, which is also available to anyone if they sign up to my weekly star guide, and that's why people love it. Because yes, you're in flow with things. It's kind of, rather than banging your head against a brick wall, you are choosing auspicious dates. You're choosing times when things are more likely to go well for you. So for me, astrology I use all the time. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's what I try and encourage, my clients to do as well.
So tell us about astrology in 2019. I think you've taught me that the millennials are very interested in it, or even people younger than them. It's very nowish again, voguish, isn't it?
It is very nowish. And I suppose this is because we're at a real key point in history. There's, a lot of change taking place at the moment. And you can see that on an astrological level, we're moving more actually into what's called the Age of Aquarius.
Yes, finally. After the song warned me about that in about 1980 something, wasn't it?
It was 1960s.
Yes, it probably was. Now we're getting there. Yeah.
These are, sort of swathes of history. We're not just talking about what's happening this month, and we better all get on with it. I mean, the Age of Aquarius is coming in, and so a lot of the slower moving planets are moving into Aquarius, and the shift really starts next year, but you can often feel these shifts coming. So Aquarius it's very different. It's more about the collective, it's more about community, it's more about sharing a fairer society, and it's unconventional. So things like astrology, things that are new age, people are looking for meaning in different ways.
Yeah.
And I think the young, I have a daughter who's 19. I mean, their lives are very different to when we were growing up. They have to react and respond in very different ways.
Yes.
And I think a lot of them are much more politically aware. I mean, we've seen, Greta Thunberg, 16, for goodness sake. The young people are getting politically active, and their views are shifting, like views do in each generation. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why the millennials, they're really big on astrology. They love it. They're looking for meaning elsewhere.
Because they're giving up on social media and they need to find community and meaning elsewhere. I've got some thoughts.
Go for it.
Yeah. It's so interesting because when I went through my phase where I became an atheist, I rejected anything that was outside the human, psyche. Because I didn't want to lean on anything, and I don't think people should lean on anything, and I wanted to move into my own power. Then I started getting more and more interested in the science of things, and funnily enough, the science of things, as you said, Sally, is starting to prove the ancient stuff works. For example, they are doing quantum physics experiments now where they can actually have an impact on something thousands of kilometers away. They can actually do an experiment at the quantum level where what they do in one location affects what happens to the molecules and the atoms at thousands of miles away. And they've now through brain scans proven the efficacy of meditation and what that does. It reduces your is it your amygdala, your animal brain, reptilian brain. It reduces the size of that and it increases the size of your frontal cortex. So there's scientific proof. And it's funny because when I was thinking about this call, I was thinking, well, okay, so I can accept that if things have an effect on other things, there's no reason why the planet shouldn't affect us at all. And then I thought, well, yes, but okay, but how did the ancients know about this? And then I was watching a program the other night about Nazca in Peru. I don't know if you've seen it. Go to YouTube and just search giant drawings, Nazca lines, that's Nazca in Peru. And you'll see a program where they go and they fly above these incredible, huge, ancient drawings that can only have been made either by ancient people trying to signal to astronauts or were actually made by astronauts themselves, because you had to be off the ground to see these drawings. You can't see them when you're down on the ground. And then it went into talking about how all the different ancient civilizations have got representations of astronauts in their drawings, their paintings, their ancient art. And I thought, and so I'm coming now around to the theory that, perhaps there were people visiting Earth in the olden days, very olden days. They could have taught the ancient civilizations some of this astronomy and mathematics and stuff, couldn't they? There's no reason why they couldn't have taught people that. And then that's what, the Chinese and, people who, the ancient proponents of astrology could have learnt this stuff from people who did know it.
Well, yeah, and I think that's, with these ancient people, I mean, there's so much mystery, isn't there? And it's like, how on earth did they do that? Well, how did they know that? So there was a different type of connection going on, I think.
I think when you say mystery, when you look at, say, something like navigation by starlight, that's not mysterious at all, is it?
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's quite logical, quite scientific, and quite early science in a funny sort of a way. And I'm thinking when Nicola was talking about the wherever it was, Latin America, I'm thinking about how on earth they build Stonehenge, and that Stonehenge is one point on a ley line that joins, is it Glastonbury with Lincoln Cathedral or something like that, where these ancient populations of ours built things on these places that they couldn't know were joined up unless you were upstairs again.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same with, there's I did a tour of Mexico looking at the ancient temples, and you get that in Chichen Itza when, on the solstice the sun comes right down the steps.
Yes.
I mean, that was, I think, just their incredible knowledge of the movement of the stars and the planets.
Yeah.
But
the thing is, how could they have known? How could they have known unless they were taught it or had?
I think if you didn't have streetlights and you didn't have television and you didn't have mobile phones and things like that, actually, if you just lived in the darkness all the time, except when the sun was out, and all you could do would be observe, the amount of daylight in the day and the seasons, and draw your own conclusions. Really, I mean, the moon is very much part of that, isn't it?
It is, and I think the stars as well. People must have, in the evening, a lot of us watch TV. They were probably just lying back, looking at what was happening.
Yes. And noticing things like, have you noticed that on the full moon such and such happens, and when it's in the darkness, the dark of the moon, such something else happens. We're just not very observant. I mean, I did catch the full moon in the afternoon sky earlier in the week, but only because I just happened to look out of the window. I wasn't looking for it. It's weird in a way. Now we're running out of time. Sally, I want to ask you one question. Just tell us something intriguing. If this interview with you goes out in the first or second week of our 2020 schedule, what do you want to tell our listeners about 2020? What can we expect?
Well, it's such a fascinating year. I've just done the astrology workshop on 2020. I think going into 2020, look at what you want to get rid of. What's coming to an ending that is no longer useful in your life, and clear things away. I mean, that's really important to do in January. It's this theme about letting things go so you can free up space for something new coming in. I mean, it's kind of quite a classic thing to say, but it really is an exciting theme of the year ahead. And by the end of 2020, then this is when the new Aquarian age is coming in.
Yeah.
So really powerful year to kind of have a really close look at your life, what stays, what goes.
And what does the Age of Aquarius mean for us?
Well, I think ideally it is, it's moving away from patriarchy, it's moving away from establishment, it's letting go of the old order that's no longer working, the systems that are no longer working. It's moving towards a kind of fairer society. It's much more about working together alongside people rather than these hierarchical systems. That's the ideal, which is, I think a lot of people want that. I think a lot of us really want that. So.
And do you think this is, I mean, there's nothing to choose really, is there, between 2000 and 2020 in the great scheme of things? Do you think this is like the logical thing you'd expect to see it that's almost at the beginning of a new millennium, as it were?
No, this is very specific astrology.
Okay, cool. Nicola, do you want to ask a final question?
How do you feel people could use horoscopes without becoming too reliant on something and giving up their power internally?
I mean, for me, the real key thing with astrology is timing. Start to work with the timing of astrology more. Look at the new moons, full moons. New moons, you set beginnings. Full moons, things come to culmination. And then, learn a bit more about the astrology so you see times to move forward, times to rein in. I would really say it's about the timing of it and getting a sense more that, there's something out there that you can connect to in a way that gives you meaning. That's for me how I see it.
Yeah. Make your decisions intuitively internally, but perhaps look to see if this week might be better than next week, or this month might be better than next month, or whatever.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're going to do things anyway, you might as well do them at the most auspicious times. You've got nothing to lose.
Well, that's the point. Absolutely. Yeah.
Sally's
monthly horoscopes, which are free on her website, are full of just such information, clues for you. And also you wrote, with Hodder and Stoughton, you wrote a series of 12 books, one about each star sign. Is that a good resource? What would you recommend for people to, in an introduction to astrology 1 and an introduction to my star sign 2?
The little blue books, as I call them, that I wrote for Hodder and Stoughton, are brilliant to give you a more in-depth look at your star sign. And I've had so much positive feedback about that. And I think once people read that, then they start to see how relevant it can be, and how much, information there is in it, and want to take it further. a beginner's class in astrology can be great, and you find out about those online, or just find an astrology you like and start to follow them.
Yeah.
And start to kind of learn from the knowledge that they have and they're sharing with you. So you do get more into the flow of life, and you're working with the timing of the astrology.
I mean, and just like everybody, really, you are in effect our guide to something that is such a big topic. We can't hope to understand it as an amateur.
Yeah, it is a very complex art. So, like anything, find your expert, find your advisor, find your guide.
Yeah, very, very good. Thank you very much, Sally.
You're welcome.
So we're just going to remind everybody again, sallykirkman.com. The in-depth monthly horoscopes are free, and there's a weekly one. I think, what's it at the moment? £49 a year, Sally?
It is, yes.
Yeah, which I get every Sunday morning without fail at 8 o'clock. It's absolutely fantastic. Lots of my clients say the same thing. I see lots of your other subscribers saying the same thing. And recently you've broadened it out to include Moony stuff as well, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, to see whether
Moony stuff.
Yeah. Well, I love the moon. I love the Moony stuff. Actually, I'm a keen Moony person. I'm always talking on this podcast about moons, Sally.
Good.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us today. I hope we'll talk to you again one day, because you're a fount of all knowledge.
Thanks so much. It's been great. Thanks for inviting me.
After half an hour I've spent for a long time.
Well, it was fast, wasn't it?
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that was good, wasn't it?
I'm a big fan of Sally's. Did you sign up for her monthlies and get your horoscope the other day?
I must confess I did.
Yes. No, I think I knew that, because I think I saw you explain something to her or say something to her or something.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I am open to things. I especially because, as I explained on the interview about the whole thing about planetary things, and now I'm getting much more into ancient aliens. I do believe that perhaps there were people here teaching us things in the olden days. So,
I think the main point that she made that seemed to appeal to you on the day was the one about timing. She said if you just use it for timing when it's a good time to do some things and a bad time to do others, that alone would be helpful.
Well, I'll tell you why it'd be helpful for me particularly, because it would stop me going off half-cocked. If I knew that an auspicious day was coming up and it was 3 days away or 2 weeks away, I might put things, that I would jump into with both feet and perhaps regret later. It might buy me a bit of time to think about things more.
Yeah, that's a very good point, isn't it?
Yeah, so the impetuous amongst us might benefit from What's your word of the week then?
It's piano, and I'm going to explain to you why in Who or What's Inspired. What's yours?
Okay, it's sleep. And I was thinking about this because I've been going through things and tidying up things, and I've got so many websites and so many little bits of things knocking around. I've also been going through knocking off unnecessary expenses. And I've managed to save myself $250 a month, so I'm quite pleased about that. But then I came across a website that had not been updated properly by me. I'm not blaming anyone. And it was a jagged edge. It felt like a jagged edge. So I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to go through everything and make sure it's all sleek and smooth and all works beautifully together.
Yeah.
Project updates. Anything from you at all?
No, not for me.
Okay. I'm going to tell you about my LinkedIn experiment. I told you I was going to put on every day over Christmas, which I did except for Christmas Day and New Year's Day, a 10-minute excerpt from our Own It, the podcast, and see what happened. Because, obviously Gary Vee keeps banging on about LinkedIn and a lot of people talk about it. So here's the results. After 1 week of putting up a bit of daily content, my profile views, which is what I've decided to measure it by initially, my profile views had gone up 390%. Or 4 times the number of profile views I got the previous week. Then week 2, it was up 10 times on what I normally got. And week 3, which was the Christmas and New Year week, it's still up 4 times on what I normally get. So I think that's worth continuing for a while and seeing if any business comes out of it. So that's what I'm going to do. So the other thing I'd like to just mention here is someone who's doing content on LinkedIn really well. 2 people, in fact. One is a digital marketing agency called Goat. And if you go and search them, you'll find them. They're doing a daily vlog on LinkedIn. And I was recommended to them by Dan Knowlton, who I like a lot. And the other person is one of my ex-clients, Angela Durrant. Remember Angela, the singing teacher? Well, she did a dinner and a day.
She's the singing lady.
Yeah, that's right. She went through the dinner and a day consultancy, and then we planned out a whole year's worth of marketing for her singing academy. And then she decided, I think, not to do that anymore. Well, she may be doing it, but she's doing something else. She's gone into Maverick Communications is her new business, and she's taken the Be Everywhere Online concept and she's doing it really, really well on LinkedIn, but for Maverick Communications instead. So go and check out Angela Durrant and see what she's up to, because she's doing a great job of marketing herself on LinkedIn. Who or what's impressed?
I have two here. I'm happy to go first or second, you say.
You go first, because it makes a change from me talking.
Okay, so the reason why I chose piano as my word of the week is I found a podcast on BBC Sounds by Tom Odell, with whom I happen to be in love anyway, in which he interviews musicians and talks to them all about their mutual love of the piano. So people like Elton John, Hugh Laurie, Rod Argent, Billy Joel, piano man, notable pianists who've made piano-based music central to their work. That's on BBC Sounds. And absolutely my favourite thing over the holidays was there were so many music-based documentaries on BBC iPlayer about Noel Gallagher, who I can't stand, so I didn't watch that one all the way through. Michael Hutchence, which I did. But my favourite one was Dolly Parton, called Here I Am. And why I liked it particularly and recommended it to my niece and her friend is because Dolly, looking anything but, was actually an early feminist, even as a teenager. So, when she went into the music business in Nashville as a teenager with a huge chest and a huge wig, she was coated in sugar and spice and all things nice, but it covered a determination of steel not to be put down and to remain her own woman, even to the extent of, her biggest selling song of all time is the Whitney Houston "I Will Always Love You" from The Bodyguard. You know that?
Yeah.
Well, Elvis wanted to record that and insisted on buying the rights in order to perform it, and she wouldn't let him.
Good for her.
I know. Though she's no fool, Dolly Parton. Absolutely. She is yes, she can sing and yes, she can write songs, but she is a phenomenal businesswoman.
Yeah, I love people like that. I'm gonna watch it now, because that sounds great. And
Here I Am. Here I Am, it's called.
Yeah, and you shared a lovely bit of Bark by Yo-Yo Ma, Ya-Ya Ma.
Yo-Yo Ma. Oh, God. That piece is just, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I like Bark anyway. Okay, I've got three things for you. I've got a recommendation. Hugh Grant talking about his life on film. Very nice, very other people. He's very self-deprecating and funny. And other people tell very good stories about it.
Can I tell you? Let me tell you, that was so good I watched it twice.
Really?
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I really enjoyed it. So there you go. It's a huge recommendation for us. Phoebe and I have ploughed through the first series of Witcher, which is very odd, but we quite enjoyed it. In fact, Phoebe's desperate for series 2 to come, but it's not coming till 2020. She's outraged to find out. He's got this funny little grunt in it, it's very strange. It's sort of supernatural thriller kind of thing, and it's quite light-hearted. If you like Lord of the Rings and stuff, you'll like this. But he's got this funny little grunt, which he does, which annoyed the hell out of me at first, but I got used to it. And then finally, I started watching Messiah yesterday on Netflix, and it is shaping up to be really, really interesting. It's about a guy who appears out of nowhere in the Middle East and starts just preaching, but non-denominational. And then he keeps being captured by the CIA, and he just escapes. Nobody knows how, and he just turns up again somewhere else later on. And it's absolutely fascinating. They're obviously setting him up to be a potential, born again Jesus, but who knows where it's going to go. It's a gripping plot. It's brilliantly acted so far, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So,
can I ask a question about Witcher?
Yes.
I saw the central actor on Graham Norton Before Christmas, but for the life of me, I can't remember who it is.
No, neither can I. And he looks nothing like he looks in the
okay.
Thing as well.
Okay.
He's a lot better looking as Witcher than he is in real life.
Oh, okay.
But no, it's a bit of fun, and Phoebe and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's it, really. That's us for this week.
Yeah, very, very good. See you next week.
I will. Bye.
Okay, bye.
It's a brand new day.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.